That's true. I'm not sure it will get to 350, 400 naira if NMPC and the marketers come to some form of agreement. But like we were saying yesterday, you remember that we said a lot of these um, marketers need to make money also. But so I can't be paying 220 naira to get out of the depot and still sell at 175, which is the maximum price. Why? I have bank financing. I have a number of other things that I have to pay my staff. I have to pay the people who move the product on my behalf, and so on. But um, one good thing for me, and some one area where I think the the regulators and the marketers can at least try and bring down the pricing is the fact that what you pay for the logistics charges, which is your maritime charges, whether it's MPA and MASA, which are denominated in dollars and paid in dollars, um, then we should start collecting those monies in naira. And why do I say that? Because marketers don't have access to the CBN markets where you can get the dollars at 445, 450. You have to buy from the black market, which is almost 300 naira differential, about 75% differential. So that cost invariably must come back into it because they have to get the monies back. So if that is done, and I know that there's a circular, um, regulatory circular that says MPA should collect all their fees and dues in naira, but that's not been done. So if that is done, I think we should be able to at least drive down, at least it would drop by about 75% of our cost, which I think will be significant, could go to maybe as much as between 6 and 10 naira.
Oh.
And these are things that we need to look at. The second part of it for me will be let the market, first and foremost, deregulate the system completely, like you promised in March 2021 when fuel prices came down for the first time in a very, very long time. And then the government was saying, oh, deregulation has started. If you had deregulated the market, let marketers get access to CBN. Some of these businesses have other businesses that generate the foreign currency, and they can also bring back into the country, which are some of the mechanisms you can use to ensure that these things are done. Because I remember clearly that some of the biggest suppliers of foreign exchange in the foreign exchange market for a very long time were the upstream companies, the Chevrons, the Mobiles, even the MTNs. Because when you get foreign currency and you need to do things in Nigeria, it's you can repatriate some of those monies and use it to create investments and infrastructure in Nigeria. And these are some of the things that need to be done. Will it get to 400 naira by December? I don't think so. I don't hope so. But we have to take it out. And where I see if all the things that need to be done are done, petrol prices will probably land between 350, 380, 400.
All right, now joining the conversation and with the view on petrol at 400 naira per liter or 350 naira per liter, depending on who you want to ask, Devo Curry, share your thoughts.
Well, this is the argument we've been pushing for a long time towards this day, almost for upwards 2 years, because one must say this administration, the Buhari administration, started off with a challenge of petrol price. Then I'm talking about the crude oil price. It was around $70, and then it tanked out when the recession came in. But as God would have it, and while we say God in this instance, because nobody planned that the Russian-Ukraine war would have come, petrol prices went up, and for about a year now, the government literally has been selling at a premium. Now, unfortunately, because of our same mismanagement, we don't have refineries. So to provide PMS, it has to be imported. Now you see the issue here, it's not even a chicken and egg. It's a direct, you must have an egg before you have a chicken. But you see the issue
Or you
is
must have or you must have the chicken before you have the egg.
but you see the issue here is many people, literally people ask, why hasn't government deregulated? Government will play the smart and clever game and tell you that, oh, we wanted to, we can't afford it, but your people, that's NLC, TUC, the general Nigerian public has put in sentiment And this sentiment is now costing us the suffering at the pumps, because we're going to go through this until we finally come out and agree that this has to sell at its market price. Now, what is happening is that the currently this fuel scarcity, right?
Mm-hmm.
The major marketers like the Mobiles, the Totals,
The
those are
MRIs.
the ones that the MRS, those are the ones that have the bulk of allocation. That is why some of them are still selling at the moment at the 185. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, at some point, their allocation will finish. But the independent marketing
Companies.
companies who have more stations nationwide across 36 states plus the FCT have told you that they get at depot 200, 220, 210. So already you're going to see this variation in the market, whereby some people are selling at 250, some people are selling at almost 300, and some people, for all they care, they can fix their own price. Because I remember on Monday we had an NNPC station in Alagbado selling at 250. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
why
NNPC.
have we allowed this scenario? Simply because government has refused to make the hard decision. And I think Nigerians, this is when you have to call this government out. They cannot keep sleeping while Nigerians are suffering. We might as well shift the price forward and ensure that there's availability instead of what we're going through now. Because honestly, I can't stand one more day of standing in fuel queue,
Calm
one
down.
more day
Calm
of
down.
fighting
Calm
at the
down.
petrol station,
Calm down.
one more day of paying heightened transport fares. Remember, it's not just the petroleum price, it's the 360 multiplier effect it has on welfare, on standard of living.
So,
Food was
Devo,
already up.
On security, on education, on health.
Ah,
you gentlemen are talking, and I'm just gonna put the other side of things because when you say, okay, people are approaching this from emotion and maybe looking at the social impact that it has, I'm gonna bring back a word that we bandied quite a bit about yesterday
Trust.
on Freshly Pressed, and that's the issue of trust. Because everybody that comes here into the studio and makes the case for subsidy removal
mm,
talks about the money being diverted into other things, right?
yes.
And being funneled into things that can make society great again. We can put it into health, we can put it into education.
Hmm.
But then tell that to the people who have seen the numbers of Nigerians and the reports about 133 million Nigerians
Mm.
being in multidimensional poverty despite all the social intervention programs that have had huge amounts of money funneled into them in a bid to better the lives of
And the more we
Nigerians.
saw, the less we
These
felt.
are the same people who will see agreements being made between the federal
Hmm.
government and ASU, between the federal government and the medical professionals,
Hmm.
and will see these agreements broken. This is a this is a people who have a history and have had a history, not just,
Disappointment.
and by the way, this is not within a certain party or a certain administration. This cuts
Across.
across
Hmm.
parties and across administrations over the years, over the decades. These are people who have had a history of bad faith moves, bad faith policies, bad faith agreements
Yes.
from the side of the government, federal, state, wherever you want to
Hmm.
put it. This is a people for whom government is a four-letter word.
Right.
And yet these are the people that you're saying, by the way, and these are people that will say, what I can, a bird in hand is worth two in the bush.
Yes.
So the bird in the hand is a subsidy. Now this is just me making this argument. So what would you say is people say I would rather have the bird in the hand and yes go through a little bit of scarcity, because once the scarcity goes they'll increase the price by just a little bit, but it will still be subsidized, as opposed to what happened with diesel,
Yes.
wherein we had diesel, it was much more expensive than petrol. But yes, even unregulated diesel, when the price shot up, we still couldn't get it.
Mm.
This is the people that you're talking to. So let's not talk about emotion here. It's not about emotion, it's about trust. How do you expect these people to put faith? Because what you're asking for is a leap of faith when we talk about subsidy removal. And actually, I'm for subsidy removal. I do believe in the flow of market forces, play of market forces. But also, I believe in, if you have had a history of bad faith, bad actors, then you are gonna need something more than people advising you to just take that leap of faith. If you have leapt before and you fell into the abyss, don't you think that memory is going to stop you from leaping again? So what would you say to these people? And it's not, remember, talking about trust.
Yes. Let me just say something quickly. I'm
Ah,
sorry, but you see, in this instance, that we don't have faith in our government is not government's fault. If government has administered badly, it is our duty as citizens to check them. It is our duty as citizens to agree on credible ways of ensuring that this money that will be saved if we're paying an increased price on petrol is used judiciously. And it goes as far as even saying that, okay, how much is allocation? Take, for example, why is it that Nigerians have kept quiet when NNPC or the Ministry of Petroleum has not come out with consumption price? Who are we kidding? Whose fault is it that if Nigeria sells crude, how come we know how much we earn? Isn't that because of the amounts that we sent out, that we shipped out? So how is it that when we're consuming PMS, we don't know how much is being consumed? We just rely on one figure and all of that.
Sometimes it's 60, sometimes it's 70. But let me just use another analogy quickly. Let's look at telecoms for instance.
very quickly. So
Very, very quickly. Let's look at telecoms for instance. Today, Nigeria in Africa, and we have the largest population, is the largest market for telecommunications in Africa. There's trust in the system.
before that, so
Huh?
yeah, before that.
But
You're
let's
gonna go
look
to
at
the time before, right?
no, no, no.
Oh, okay.
Let's look at the company that came out of government has been sold to 2 or 3 or 4 different new companies,
Mhm.
and it still hasn't worked.
Yeah.
True.
So when you think about that, just take it away. They will fix the inefficiencies within the system, because at the end of the day, it's about service delivery. And sometimes let's realize that prices go up and come down. If prices in the oil market go down, if infrastructure is available, then you would find out that people will bring in this price. People will look for ways and better ways to make the system work better, and people will get the fuel that they require. For the last 2 weeks, we've been battling and sleeping at filling stations, Shopware. So what are we talking about?
It's war out there. All right, we're going to take a break now. When we get back, the phone lines are open and I will start taking your calls. I saw some of them coming in, but now we'll be focusing on the calls. So this is the number 0144 89981.
Future forward banking.
If there's time,
This
I
isn't
want
doing
to
something
break
engineering.
down
You're listening to
what
See, telecoms and everybody
government
shouting
can
at
do
mouth.
to with that money that's saved, because they've done it before. There's
What
like
does
the
future forward
sovereign
banking
fund.
mean to
Yeah.
you?
There's
Speed,
just like we discussed
innovation,
pension today.
convenience,
That was money
lifestyle
raised
growth,
from
or just
people
simply
that
getting
was
service
locked and
that's
trapped, so that
designed
government would
just
not
for you?
touch it.
Yeah, we
So it's
thought
They're,
you
they're
possible.
looking
like
for
all
her
of
to
that
touch
and
that
more.
money.
Yes.
They've been
They've
looking for us to touch
No,
it.
but
for
you
her to
can see
touch
they've
it.
not been able to.
Bank
So
for
in
you
this
to
instance,
take care
we
of your
budgeted
daily
how much for subsidy.
experiences.
Now
At
that
Providence Bank,
they've agreed that there's
we believe that
subsidy
banking
and we
should
know
be
the
all about
amount
you and
involved,
your business,
so we
and
can
how to get
calculate
you
and say,
to the
okay,
next
if we
level.
pay
If you
this
do not
amount, this is
already
how
have
much
a
we're
Providence
saving.
bank account,
Then
please
every
speak with our
Nigerian will all have
business
to agree
concierge
this
on
is what we're going to put that money to
0700
use for.
And we'll start to see it.
Yes, it will no longer be in
or email
the federal government hands.
businessconcierge@providencebank.com
Uh,
to
I
switch
don't
to a
understand.
future forward
We
bank.
can't get petrol.
Okay, well,
Providence
you're
Bank.
not the people. But I was about to say
Future.
shock. But are you aware that if we do
You're
that,
not the people.
you know the federal government will do? The federal government will say, I bet go and put meter at the.
Oh yes, now.
And then they'll tell you it was not 100 million that you people were consuming. It was 20 million, so that the money will be less. You will see all of a sudden they will flip.
We're in
They will flip.
studio. It's 19 minutes gone past 9 o'clock, and Lagos, you are talking. Let's take it straight over to the phone line, see what you have to say. Hello, good morning. Could you please turn your radio off just for the duration of our conversation? What is your name and your location? Emmanuel at mile 12. How's it going with you, Emmanuel? Okay, so Emmanuel, share your thoughts on this.
The cost of fuel is low. Even with the subsidies are right. It's not as if we're begging for it. And there's something they're just doing wrong that they're not getting. And it's having a full effect on what is happening to you. So I think government should see that and look how it works. It must work. Subsidy must still remain. It's our right. If you take it to 400, it will still go to 700 or 1,000. It will never stop. See, so it has to be where it is now. If possible, it should go lower. Nothing, no negotiation. It has to be so. That's my thought in this.
All right, Emmanuel. Thank you for sharing that thought. Keep on calling 0144899881. Do you follow you and what is English? Emmanuel has come and said
It's
subsidy must stay. It is our right. We're not begging for it. It must stay. Hello, good morning. Good morning. What's your name? Okay, Saji from First Tag. Go ahead.
Your analysis is brilliant. It's beautiful. Thank you for that and for what they also. I will tell you, we should go back to history. Just after independence, the governments that have come on board, right from Tafa Balewa to Babangida, we never heard about subsidy. It was Babangida's regime that we started hearing about subsidy. Then come to Goodluck Jonathan's government. We knew what he was trying to do then, but we, the citizens, as you rightly analyze and Wadi, is the citizens that kicked against this aspect of removal of subsidy. But then again, I remember Ayuba Waba, to Kokori, and what's his name now, and others that have been, but Kokori then was very ardent. Or when we talk of Shiomole, they always go there for money and they will remove 2 copper or so. All of us will go back after the suffering. But then again, that is not the issue. The issue at hand now is the aspect of removal of subsidy. Subsidy without our refineries working. That is what all of us, I know you pressmen, you have tried on this aspect, that our refineries should be working. I can't understand why all the refineries, Wally, Kaduna, Lagos, and all others, Port Harcourt, have never functioned. And yet, people are here being paid. You will start importation of fuel. What is happening? We're talking about some independent marketers and these so-called oil companies, Mobil, MRS, and others. That have they ever been given the right to start importation? No, nothing of such has been done. We're talking about subsidy removal. When the subsidy comes on board, and when we're talking about all these issues, we should forget the issue of politics and go direct to what we are about saying. It's not the aspect of this government or that government. It has been with each of the governments that have come on board in this country.
All right, then, Saji.
Yes, please, we should look at all these issues holistically and tell what is really happening. We should debate the issue at hand, not going into other areas. Thank you very much.
Saji,
Yes,
you made a good point and then you started veering.
and
Let's
then
take
he
this
also
next.
conflicted himself. You cannot have refineries if the price is fixed.
Let's continue. Oh, the phone lines are going. Hello, good morning. Good morning, Chika. All right, Chika, go ahead. Share your thoughts.
First and foremost, I think there's some questions that we've not actually provided answers to. And what are these questions? Is the current Minister of Petroleum competent enough to hold that office? The simple answer is no. The second question is that when we talk about subsidy, do Nigeria really consume 80 million liters a day? Figures from World Bank and findings from World Bank have clearly shown that we don't consume such numbers of petrol. I mean, we're the same size of population with Pakistan and what have you, and we have almost the same number of vehicles. How many liters are they doing a day? How come we're told that we're doing 80 million liters a day where we're not doing that 80 million liters per day? Also, why do we keep spending about 4 trillion every year when such amount of money in 2 years can actually give us a brand new refinery? How much have they injected into refineries? Has anything come out of it? The simple answer is no. For me, I think we should talk about transparency and we should talk about accountability. As far as I'm concerned, the reason why we're here today is because there is no accountability. Subsidy didn't start with this regime. It has been there in other regimes. Why is one of this regime so much that it has become another thing entirely. During days of Goodluck Jonathan, the highest we ever paid for subsidy was about 1.6 trillion. In next year budget alone, from January to about June, the government has proposed to pay about 6 trillion for subsidy. Why the sudden shift? Why the sudden jump? And in 2012, when Goodluck Jonathan wanted to remove this government, I mean, is this same dramatic personnel in this government that went to Ojota and went to protest? Today, everybody has kept quiet, and they're telling us that is a bitter pill that we must all swallow.
All right. All right, Jika. So you'll need to round up for other callers.
I'm concerned, if we don't address the issue of transparency and accountability, we won't make any headway. Mr. President told us that the only reason why he wants to head petroleum ministry is because there's so much corruption.
All right then, Chika. Thank you so much. Let me take another call. Hello. Good morning. Good morning. What's your name and location? And Mecca. Where are you calling me from today? Hey, Mecca.
Now, see, there is no transparency and accountability in all of this. Now, I see no reason why we cannot just sell these moribund old refineries and compress the money to build just one refinery. It's even enough. Even if the federal government can enter into good agreement with this Dangote, have a deliberate policy to sell crude at a reduced rate for him, let him refine and give us back. By the time he refines and give us back, sell back to us at a reduced rate, I think it will take care of both subsidy, no subsidy.
Wait, hold on one second, Emeka. I have both analysts shaking their heads. No.
Emeka,
All right.
Emeka, you just introduced. Emeka, can you hear me? You introduced subsidy twice in your statements. The government should give Dangote at a reduced price so that he can further reduce
the price for
The
us.
market does not work like that. Somebody has to pay that cost. And that is why we are suffering now.
Okay, back to you, Emeka.
That being the case, can they just fix our refinery or build new ones? These things will be taken care of. I don't know. Some people are catching out on this problem.
Yes.
Some people, President cannot come out to address, Minister of Petroleum cannot come out to address this situation.
I'm glad that you called him in the moniker that he needs for this particular situation. Thank you, Emeka.
Let me quickly just say something to this. I'm sure I'm sounding like a broken record to you. Government has no business in doing business.
No,
And that's my
truth can never be a broken record.
So let me finish that. Government has the opportunities to be part investors in a system and let those who know how to run businesses run them. One thing I can be sure, and I think I am sure about, having been in this industry for a long time, is let the deregulation come in. Like Dangote has built a refinery. What you would have is a number of investors will come in, even if they are modular refineries within states, within regions, investments will come in, opportunities will come in. You would have enough refineries, not just to refine in Nigeria, but also refine and export. We cannot be at the seaport. There's a place called Gibraltar. It's a tiny island. And the transactions that go through there in terms of blending facilities, in terms of exports in terms of refineries, the same thing with the Netherlands. So let the people who know how to do business invest in them. Prices will go up, prices will come down, but at the end of the day, we would adjust, have less cars on the road. You can imagine you buy fuel, you spend 6 hours to buy fuel and then spend 6 hours to get home. Of what use is it? And government should now start to invest in proper infrastructure like education, like security, like health, even the energy transition program. For instance, during this week, we heard that we're losing about 15.4 billion in terms of crude oil theft. The energy transition program requires 50 billion a year. That's a third of the money that we're losing in crude oil theft. You can imagine if that money goes into it. Yesterday, we were speaking about getting the loan from the African Development Bank for 550 million for alternative energy. And we've seen the impact, not just in Lagos, but across Nigeria. So let's cut this subsidy. 15.4 billion is your 7 trillion subsidy for 2023.
You know, our problem, right, is just like a mother or a child that struggles to be weaned, stop breastfeeding. That is what Nigeria currently is passing
I
through.
totally agree with
and
you.
not just in subsidy. I mean, there are all forms of subsidies, from petroleum subsidy to electricity subsidy to foreign exchange subsidy. You see, the point is, it was available when the government could afford it in the 70s and the 80s, okay? That's not the same time now. Now, for the gradual reduction, okay, so that we can begin to pay at the market price. Like I mentioned earlier, as government removes the subsidy, right, takes the hard decision and removes the subsidy, yes, it will be expensive at first. Yes, it will come with a little bite. But in the long run, market forces will move to ensure that the
Stability.
prices come down to some form of stability. I mean, okay, look at this current case. Whether they sell it at 200 or 300, what Nigerians want is availability. We don't need to suffer simply because we want to buy fuel. Investors in the refining sector cannot invest simply because you have fixed the price below market rates. They're not going to invest and lose. So, like you mentioned, government shouldn't be in business. So, can we get government to get out of the oil and gas business so that we can have some level of transparency and accountability?
All right, let's take a break. The phone lines are really going, so when we get back from the break, more of your thoughts, more of your calls.
Future forward banking.
It depends.
Shogwe, what's going?
Everybody is tired.
People at the station, people on queue. This morning,
No,
man,
they will not be calling.
one of my house
What's
drivers
going on? The lines are going off the roof.
refused to bring me to work because I'm going to. They just called me at NIP, I should come and take fuel, and there was no jerry can to tag along so they could get for me.
This morning, I run two generators in my house because I need a big one to carry my freezer and so that I can have food.
And it could begin use cold.
No, I
I'm
use
using
charcoal.
solar power.
You said that. I have solar power. I'm considering it now, but you see, the initial investment is high. But believe me, at the end of the
not
day,
paying anything now.
when we were
sun
talking
is
about
shining.
solar
But
yesterday, when
you
I was
paid
saying,
when you bought it.
No, I know that's
No,
what
but-
I'm saying. I'm not paying anything now.
yeah, and I know the irony of it. Look for alternative energy. Cost will drop.
Acquisition cost.
Yeah, acquisition cost.
The challenge.
No.
Acquisition cost is a huge challenge. Oh.
Now.
I
Because
watched Tears
you
of
don't
Blood,
have-
guys.
instead
When I was
of
just talking-
doing policy,
All your savings. will
instead
just
of doing
go.
policy that would have help drive that infrastructure, you are giving money.
And by the way, why do you not be angry? Because you'll be saying, wait, so for all of this money, you can only carry one freezer? And because I was like, I need one freezer and one AC.
You did
Put
2
them on.
kilowatts.
Shokwe, let me tell you, how many hours are you in the house a day? How many bedrooms do you stay in?
No, but the freezer
Wait,
is on now.
wait. How many bedrooms do you stay in? No, so let's say it's 3 or 4.
Uh-huh.
How many and how many people live with you?
Quite a few.
How many are these? Quite a few. And they're all inside the house at the same time.
No.
Shokwe, let me tell you, your 1.5 horsepower AC, if you run it for 24 hours, that's about
I hate leading questions.
that's
also.
about 24, 25 units of energy consumed. Multiply it at what's the rate?
Yeah, so say your points now.
My point is, we have been spoiled with energy. So, Chokpa, in the UK, can you go out and leave the lights in your room? Now?
In the UK, I will know my lights are on because there is light for me to know that the lights are on. I can't. I refuse
You
to
don't
answer that
check?
question.
We've not been
When
spoiled
the
with
when you
lights.
have when the light has been off for like 3 days,
Shokpa,
why will you bother checking?
Why?
You're like,
Shokpa,
in
wait,
darkness, I woke up in darkness,
Shokpa, where's
I
that
will come
switch? Is it
home.
on or off?
The light is on. Hence, I can tell it is on.
You have a torch. When all of us have rechargeable.
So you now want me to waste my battery?
Your battery, can
my
you hear?
phone battery.
But you will waste the electricity when you leave home and leave the AC on.
Yeah, so charge right so that she
Yeah, we're
pays,
saying the
she
same
pays
thing.
for what she's using.
We say the same thing. So whether it is in oil and
But
gas
first,
or it's
give
in
me
energy,
what I can see to be using. I will start turning the lights off when I know the lights are off.
Yeah.
We're back
on
on
to be
there.
turned. Please, let's get back in.
this
Oh
is-
boy, we
Is
are
this
having
yours?
such a spirited conversation off air. If you're not, you can always go and rewatch, replay the YouTube video. All right, so let's get back into the call. 0144898981. And first, I'll take this message from Abiola up on WhatsApp saying, if we have not benefited from the subsidy removal on diesel and kerosene, how can we be convinced we will benefit on PMS subsidy removal? All right, what say you? Hello, good morning. Oh, Adela, good morning. Wade and
Good
Devo are with
morning,
me.
Adiola.
Okay, so Adela, wait, first of all, where are you calling us from today? Where are you calling us from today? What's your location today? Ikeja. Okay, Adela, go ahead. The floor is yours. Share your thoughts.
Okay, thank you. I've heard your analyst, they are market oriented, but unfortunately, the situation we have right now, market will not work. And for one reason, you remember somebody called yesterday on this electricity. Once a country depends solely on importation, and you have surrendered your sovereignty of your currency to parallel market, you cannot depend on market. That's one. Two, I will reduce Nigeria to Lagos, honestly, because whatever we like it, fuel is not sold at the price it's sold in Lagos, elsewhere in Nigeria.
True.
For example, 40 billion naira is the average revenue to Lagos state government every month. That to everybody, oh, shouts, wonderful state, oh, fantastic, they're doing well, and all of that. I would tell you that with 2.5 million vehicles burning 3 liters in traffic every day in a month, that's 40 billion that is being burnt. And that is what Lagos is proudly, presenting to the whole world as its revenue. What is the opportunity cost? Could Lagos have done something differently? Because we talk about subsidy. Couldn't Lagos have concessioned some routes to concessionaires, like the bandwidth were given out by NCC to MTN, Airtel, Nine Mobile, and whatever, such that 40,000 vehicles, buses, Volvo, Scania, Yulong could be brought into Lagos, such that you and I don't have to use our cars anymore, or traffic restraints, as the case may be in New York, in London, everywhere where you don't just drive into anywhere. There are options. We just have no brainers as leadership.
Oh, Adela is fantastic.
Because we can continue and continue. Market, I agree with you, market is good, but does it work? We're a poor country. Don't let us be insulated in Lagos.
Adela, hold on a second. I think Wade wants to ask you something.
Adiola, I completely agree with you, and that's why I said government has no business in doing business. A number of the things you've said now are policy decisions that will change the way we do things and help markets balance the imbalance. And that's where I see it, and I stand by that. And
How long will it take? Because we actually don't manufacture all of these spare parts that will be needed to fix so many things. We still have to depend on importation.
And I agree. And remember, I said that, you see, when you create the opportunities for infrastructure and development, these same people know that at the end of the day, if I build a refinery in Nigeria, even if I'm taking the crude off Nigeria at $100 per barrel, the cost of refining it in Nigeria and the infrastructure development in terms of whether it's power, in terms of the logistics of the roads, in terms of whether it's a train system, like you said, in this Lagos, we're supposed to have a train system that runs 360 degrees. And we're still, for the last 15 years, are still trying to do a monorail.
People, if I could leave my
But
car
the fact
at
of the
home,
matter,
I
like you said,
would.
Adiola, is I totally agree with you. Policy implementation to check the stop.
I'm sorry, I'll take a little time. Yeah. The angle you've come from is good. What happens to CNG fired buses if you don't have to use diesel or petrol?
Adiola, can I say this? All your brilliant ideas work in a society where the government has sincerity of will. I don't agree with you that Nigeria is poor. What I believe is that Nigeria is highly oppressed because we have a lot of corruption at all levels of government. Calculate how much goes into subsidy, calculate the crude oil theft. You have enough money to have implemented some of these ideas that you are talking about.
All right, gentlemen. So I'm gonna have to cut in on this conversation. Adiola, I'll give you about a minute to finish up your thoughts because the phone lines have been going. So go ahead.
Because at the end of the day, we also know that whatever we call it, Nigeria will eventually be the one that will bear all these bronze. And we're already doing that. It's a pity. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Adela. And Adela, that's a different mind, man. Adela, if you're listening, send me a message up on WhatsApp. Let me know it's you 0809 981. All right, let's take another call, and then I'll think after this call, I'll take it over to you two gentlemen. Hello, good morning. All right, good morning. What's your name and your location? Okay, Abbas, where are you calling from today? Okay.
Sweden.
No, not Sweden. Tin Can.
Tin Can, okay.
Sweden.
Papa.
All right. Abbas, go ahead. Share your thoughts.
I think I'll support the idea that we should just remove this subsidy once and for all. Actually, we've been having issues of mistrust, and it is rightly so because our government over time, not just this administration alone, over time, have not been sincere with the subsidy issue. There was a time that people bring in water laden vessel into the country and they collect subsidy fund from the government without discharging anything. So I think this whole subsidy issue has been shrouded in secrecy. And again, if you look at it very well, we are even subsidizing neighboring nations, Ghana, Togo, Benin, with our own fuel. And if you go to all those places, they are selling at very high prices. So government should look into the issue of this modular refineries. At least the Port Harcourt refinery, they said, should have taken off this December. But I think they've shifted it to March 2023. And it has a capacity of 60,000 barrels per day. So if we look at that and this Dangote refinery that is even also coming up, I think we have to look at it. We will bear the pain initially, but the market will regulate the pricing at the end of the day.
All right, then, Abbas.
This subsidy once and for all.
All right, Abbas, thank you. Okay, so gentlemen, back to you. Boy.
Thank you, Abbas. You see, I've been dancing in the studio
You
myself.
want to buy him a drink?
Yeah, if he gives me where I can get him a drink, because we know we've been dancing. But the reality of it is this, and like Adiola said, there is huge opportunities. We need to develop our infrastructure. Those refineries have not been maintained the way they should be maintained since they were built. We need people to invest in new refineries, but if prices are fixed, like Devo said earlier, nobody is going to put a kobo in investment in infrastructure. And it's the same thing we've seen. We've heard this administration say, oh, we're investing in the rail lines. Only 2 or 3 are practically working. And where you look at where government implements policies to check traffic jams and all. And like Adiola said, these are the kind of things we should be thinking about. Yes, we don't produce them in Nigeria, but as you go on, if you have 40,000 buses brought into Nigeria, one of the first things that would happen is that those kind of people will bring in a maintenance system into Nigeria. That's infrastructure development. So it starts from maintenance, and then it moves on into having an assembly plant and all. And these are how a number of those countries have built this. If we're talking about energy transition over the next 38 years, we will require 50 billion, and we're losing 15.4 billion every year to this year to oil theft. You can imagine what would happen if we put that amount of money in that into those infrastructure of building gas. Like I said, use gas-enabled vehicles, but we don't even have the infrastructure for gas. So these are the things that we need to look at. And on that note, let me let the go.
Well, we have a minute before we're going to break.
Yeah,
so what I'm going to do is read a message from Uchenna and from Anthony, and then after the break, Devo, you said that you had a map to how to get us to post-subsidy life. So we'll focus on that on the other side, and I think that'll be how we end the conversation. So Jenna from Anthony says, Chicken has said it all. Can we have a breakdown of the cost of PMS from the overseas refineries to the pump? How on earth can a major oil producing country not have a functional refinery? The past and present governments are milking the country blind. The problem is not the subsidies. Audit the systems and jail the culprits. Simple. It's not rocket science. The
But,
records are there, for
At
goodness
all.
sake.
It's not rocket science.
Now we talk about oil theft. We have not been able to hold anybody. Well, we held some people accountable, but it was.
Uh,
It was-
13
we'll
naval,
say
13
small
naval,
fry.
13 naval officers,
Mm.
and we've not heard the outcome of
Small
the trial.
fry. And Uchenna goes on to say, so going by our way of thinking, let's scrap drilling and producing oil as is impossible to catch the criminals. The country has been totally criminalized. That's the problem. It's not the subsidies that are the problem. On
Thank
that
you.
note, we go on a break, and then when we get back, the map to post-subsidy life.
We are
Adela made great sense because in a
Adiola
city like
makes
Lagos,
great sense.
that's why I had to tell you we're still monorail.
I don't think it
Monorail.
made so much sense.
No.
Let me explain
Okay.
why.
Risi, where's your sister? She's in the
You
back.
know, you have to be in the country to understand how elites speak. Tinubu said something the other day. He said, LA, the other LA, he said, nah, statistics will go chop. That man, you know what they call propaganda? He spoke the mind of the masses. Not because he said the right thing, but because we're not
Can you close the...
we're not thinking. We like the sentiments. We like the beer parlor discussions. Corruption is what is giving us our constipation. If you like, go and bring Harvard grade, Cambridge, Oxford grade ideas. They will fall flat. Are you aware that Nigeria has 14 times the amount of petrol in gas? Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Do you understand that
We're the number
literally
one gas.
should
we
not
have
be
the gas
afraid.
reserve.
We should not be afraid of,
Of
oil drying up.
finishing.
We're sitting
shouldn't.
pretty. Yet,
But-
as black Africans, we take our hand and we shove it up our back, and then we go outside and
Say it like that. Say it like
If
this.
that's-
Shove it up our ass.
Excuse me, gentlemen. First of all, do remember the platform we're on and the fact that we're
We are not
streaming
on.
up on YouTube
We're
on
on
the
YouTube.
Smooth FM
You see,
platform.
I don't. We're on
Thank you very
YouTube.
much.
We're still streaming
So-
on YouTube.
so-
Let's
so-
talk it like it is.
so
Let's-
that's
eh,
no.
Let's talk it like
It's
in
morning
English, that
morning
is
program.
truthful. Smooth Ripples on YouTube. Thank you.
But you see, the thing is, we have to
I know my
actually
French.
face the real issues. No matter how brilliant ideas are, if you don't tackle corruption,
But you do admit that they are brilliant.
if that's the appetizer, yes, we agree.
Somebody wants to have fun with you yesterday because yesterday she couldn't try me. I was on her case.
I couldn't try you.
You know,
Okay.
you know the funny,
Anything for a good show.
you know the funny thing is
Uh-huh.
the missing part about this current election is nobody's talking corruption. We're talking as if Nigeria will flip all of a
No,
sudden
Nigeria's not going to
Since-
flip all of a
Yes.
sudden.
since a new Buhari is going, and that's why Buhari and co are sitting pretty because nobody's disturbing them anymore. they
We're
are-
still talking about
They are
it.
fleecing your crude.
Yeah.
First lady, do you will take that story? I wanted
Of
to tell
the
her to-
person that
Yes, and
no.
the abuse of power. And then on
We're
all the
back in the-
airwaves nationwide,
okay.
everybody was saying that the boy did something wrong.
He
Can you imagine
didn't.
Nigerians?
Okay, let's get back in. My, how time has flown, but here we are in the final few minutes of Smooth Breakfast and of the Lagos Talks, which is extended for a bit. All right, so just because we created time for DeVoe to come in, because DeVoe is like, I have got the solution, people.
The bro has the roadmap.
Is
Am I
it the
checking you?
roadmap? I'm trying to say that the roadmap and the answer to this problem has always been before us. Now, it's two parts. You see, when we always say take the subsidy away, either full or gradual, okay, I think generally the sentiment for that is growing, especially each time we suffer at the queues.
Yeah.
We fight ourselves just to get fuel. People are understanding that you can't pay the same price anymore, right? However, the trust issue that you raised as to if we take out the subsidy, the money that is saved by government, how are we sure that will come back to us as dividend or as benefit? Now, you see, government currently even has many programs in different sectors that addresses or administers monies like this that are
Tries
saved.
to.
For example, Currently, we're spending, at least to date, we spent in excess of 5 trillion on subsidy this year. Okay, so what that means is that if we didn't spend, if government doesn't pay that subsidy, the question is, what would you do with the 5 trillion? How am I sure that government is not going to steal that 5 trillion? Now, solution number one, you could create like a pension, just like we have pensions. Pensions was created, an organization was instituted that looks after that money. They know where it's at. Government cannot touch it, and everybody monitors.
And if you're going to church it, you will know what infrastructure we're
Yes,
going
we've
to use
spoken. We've spoken that there's about 14 trillion in pensions after so many years. Government is itching to touch it, but they can't. You have another situation like the Nigerian Sovereign Trust Fund. Money was dedicated to that institution. They are very transparent as to how they spend it. We can do this same for, let's call it, post-subsidy savings. Create an institution where everybody is open or can see it, and then we can agree as to how it will be shared or spent or what it would go to. What I'm trying to say is that we shouldn't be afraid and stay in this ignorant position of saying, come, we must have subsidy, keep it there, leave it there, because we are suffering. Like NNPC has already said, and the independent petroleum marketers, it might hit 400 by December. When is December? I think that's tomorrow, right? So Nigerians, please save yourself this pain, because right now government is not ready to work with you. Government literally could care less while you suffer at the station.
It's a lame dog government.
I'm not gonna say anything because
Lame dog government. Let me not say lame dog government. A lame dog period for the administration.
what I was going to say, thank you, Wadi, was that there's a difference between suffering and smiling. And just pure suffering.
Everybody is
but
inside
that's
the box.
just wordplay. All right, and we are done. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Wade, when you took over Freshly Pressed yesterday and determined that this was what we're going to talk about on Lagos Talks,
Chope, tell me
you
that
made
this
a
was
good
not.
decision.
Oh, thank you very much, Chope.
Yes,
and
yes.
I am glad that yesterday was my day. And I trust the decisions of Nigerians will be to agree.
We hope and we pray.
Subsidies would finally go.
And for those on the queues, I hope you get fuel today at a good rate
and not burn it in traffic
without much suffering.
That too. All right, and I will end on two messages. The first coming in, Gilbert Musa from Festac, who says, as a caller said, subsidy is not the challenge. Or rather, as a Uchenna said, subsidy is not the challenge. We have to prosecute people who are indicted for the oil theft. Also, we need to build strong institutions and get credible people to work with the institutions to check leakages and wastages. Akintoye says, we need to stop subsidy immediately, without which investments in refineries will never happen. The conversation is very relevant now that we anticipate a change in government by May 2023. He goes on to say that whoever that president will be should just take the opportunity to stop subsidy like William Ruto once and for all. First day one. Bye.
Bye, Felicia.
He goes on to say, PMB missed the opportunity. I pray we do not miss the next one. And that is that for Lagos Talks, but not for Smooth FM because Sean is in. Oh, Sean, come. Quick. Hello, join the conversation. We're not going to ask you for your thoughts.
Don't you? I'm not even going to answer that. You know my stand already when it comes.
What's your stand?
I don't like to talk about the depressing things you talk about on Freshly Pressed, on Smooth Breakfast.
Yes,
I come in here to clean the energy.
Depressing.
Yes.
Yesterday she came in and she depressed all of us. I cannot remember what it was you said, but basically it was man must die. Something along those lines.
No, that was not what I said. We were talking gleefully about the Mauna Loa volcanic eruption that has been on for days now in Hawaii. And I think it was yesterday evening I sent you that beautiful post about how scientists are trying to test a zombie virus to be sure exactly what it is so that they can prepare a solution ahead. We're not all gonna die. Maybe some will turn into zombies and eat the others. But we are
okay.
not.
Shope, I think it's David, what do you think? It's time for us to go.
No, but have you heard of it though? So in Siberia, I believe, so due to the global warming, lots of ice are thawing, and those things that have been frozen for years are becoming alive.
Maybe it would finally get Putin to focus on Russia and stop this Russian-Ukraine war?
It's going to, you don't understand. It's probably the brewing of another pandemic.
Another one? You're even
Or
making it singular.
It means that we need to look for more trees so that we can cut our.
Well.
Guys, no.
Yeah, so that's why they are so. No, it looks like it is. It makes no sense that they are reviving those viruses, but I think that's their best bet for them to know ahead of time what it is.
And what did I respond to?
But they knew about the
you?
COVID virus ahead
Scientists
of
should be
time.
locked up so that they don't kill us all.
Thank you and goodbye. We're done for the day.
Thank you,
up,
Lagos, for having us.
Thank you very much. Coming up, show is going to be in on Strictly Soul, and at 11 o'clock, she's got a conversation on Soul Sisters. Make sure you join her for all of that from 10 o'clock to 1 p.m.
Right. Okay.
We all gonna turn into zombies.
It won't come
You know
back.
there's a thing called the zombie worm?
Yeah,
It's
that's
the Oxidax.
yeah, that's
Is it the
one.
zombie worm? No,
That's
that's
the
not
one.
it. This one was a zombie virus. The
This is
zombie
the
worm
one
is
in
the
Africa.
Oxidax.